The War of the Cosmic Titans, the Awakening of the Titans. The year was 4963. Humanity had conquered the stars, bending the laws of physics with technology that once seemed impossible. The great discovery had been dark matter manipulation, an energy source so vast and powerful that it could warp space and even time itself. Scientists called it the Singularity Engine, a device capable of reshaping reality at will. At first, it was a miracle. Planets once deemed uninhabitable were transformed into lush worlds. Black holes were tamed, their energy fueling entire civilizations. Humanity was no longer bound by the limitations of nature. They were no longer just explorers. They were creators. But in their quest for ultimate power, they had awakened something that should have remained asleep. Deep within the void between galaxies, in a place where even light dared not tread, ancient beings stirred. They were the cosmic titans, architects of the first galaxies, rulers of time before time itself. For billions of years, they had watched, silent and undisturbed. To them, mortals were nothing but dust, fleeting moments in the grand orchestra of existence. But humanity was different. They were not content with being mere observers of the universe. They sought to control it, to rewrite the very rules that governed reality. The Titans saw this as a violation of the natural order, a crime against creation itself. And so they made their decree. A warning, delivered not in words, but in action. It happened without sound, without warning. One moment, the celestial haven system, a thriving colony of 6 planets, home to billions of humans, existed. The next, it was gone. Not destroyed, not burned, not turned to dust. Simply erased. Where 6 planets had once orbited a bright sun, now there was nothing but an empty void, as if they had never existed, as if history itself had been rewritten. Across the galaxies, humanity trembled. Their technology, their power, it meant nothing. The Titans were not an enemy they could fight with warships and weapons. They were gods, and they had spoken. The message was clear. Humanity had gone too far. Their existence was unnatural, a disruption to the cosmic balance. They had stolen power meant only for the divine. Now, the universe itself would correct this mistake. Humanity had 2 choices. Surrender. Accept extinction. Allow the Titans to erase them, as they had erased so many before. Or stand and fight against gods themselves. The United Earth Federation, the ruling government of humanity, was thrown into chaos. Panic spread like wildfire. Billions of voices called for surrender, for humility in the face of something far beyond their comprehension. But others refused to bow. Among them was Admiral Cal Draven, commander of the Titan Armada, the most advanced fleet in human history. He had spent his life fighting, watching humanity claw its way from the brink of destruction time and time again. He would not let them be erased. Fear has never saved us, Draven growled, standing before the leaders of the Federation. Surrendering is the same as dying. We may be ants compared to them, but even ants bite. Many called him a fool, but others called him a leader. And so, humanity split into factions, those who wished to surrender and those who would rather die fighting. The war had not yet begun, but the lines had been drawn. The Titans had issued their warning. Now, humanity would answer. In the dark void of space, far beyond the reach of any star, the Titans gathered. Their celestial forms shimmered with the light of dying galaxies. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. Humanity would be no different. One of them spoke, not with a voice, but with the weight of existence itself. The end begins. And across the universe, the first wave of annihilation began. The war of mortals and gods begins. The darkness of space trembled. A ripple spread across the void as something vast and terrible entered the Sol system. Oron the Starborn had arrived. He was not a ship, not a fleet, but a living force of destruction. His form, a shifting mass of cosmic energy and golden armor, shimmered like a collapsing star. Planets trembled in his wake. Time itself twisted around him. Earth's most powerful fleet stood ready. Hundreds of warships, armed with planet-killing weapons, formed a defensive wall around the homeworld. The command center buzzed with desperate voices. Fire everything we have. The void lit up as missiles, lasers, and fusion lances streaked toward Auron. For a moment, hope flickered in the hearts of humanity. But then, the truth became clear. Their weapons were nothing. Auron raised his hand. The energy of dying suns crackled around him. With a mere gesture, space itself bent. The incoming projectile slowed, then reversed, hurling back at the fleet with devastating force. Explosions bloomed like fiery flowers, tearing ships apart. Thousands of humans died before they could even scream. Earth's last hope was failing. Then, a new signal emerged from the darkness. A transmission buried in secret channels, forgotten for centuries. A shadowy voice echoed through the command center. "We are the Titan Forged, and we know how to kill a god." A hidden faction, long dismissed as a myth, revealed itself. The Titan Forged had spent millennia studying the truth buried deep in the universe's oldest ruins. Titans had come before, and humanity had survived. A secret archive was unlocked. Within it lay records older than Earth itself, detailing a war fought in a time beyond memory. The Titans had once ruled the universe, but something impossible, had defeated them. A weapon, forged in the heart of a dying black hole. A weapon that could tear apart the very fabric of existence. The Singularity Spear. It was no ordinary weapon. It was an anomaly, a paradox that should not exist. If unleashed, it could pierce even Auron's godly form. But there was a cost. The weapon's power was limitless. Uncontrolled, it could trigger a chain reaction that would unravel the Milky Way itself. Every star, every planet, every life would be consumed in an unstoppable gravitational collapse. The leaders of Earth faced an impossible decision: use the spear and risk everything, or allow Auron to burn their civilization to ash. On a secret moon base, the Titan Forged prepared the weapon. It was not a missile, not a cannon, but something far more dangerous, a shard of condensed singularity, a sliver of absolute nothingness. It would need to be delivered in close combat, thrust directly into Auron's core. A suicide mission. A single pilot was chosen. Captain Elias Kane, a veteran of countless battles, stepped forward. He had seen the destruction Auron had caused. He had lost friends, family. There was no hesitation in his voice. "I'll do it." His ship, the Oblivion Lance, was equipped with the Singularity Spear. As Auron moved toward Earth, preparing to unleash his wrath, Kane launched into the void. The final battle had begun. The fall of Mars, humanity's first true defeat. Mars was humanity's second home. Cities stretched across its red surface, bustling with life. Vast domes protected its people from the harsh atmosphere, while towering defense structures stood ready for war. But none of it mattered when Auron, the Titan of the Void, arrived. The skies above Mars turned black. A massive tear in space formed in orbit, its edges crackling with unnatural energy. It was the Event Horizon Storm, Auron's ultimate weapon. Scientists on the surface screamed warnings, but it was too late. The void expanded, swallowing everything in its path. Massive ships tried to escape, launching from Martian spaceports, but the pull of the void was too strong. One by one, they vanished into the darkness, their lights flickering out like dying stars. The largest of them, the colony ship New Dawn, carried over 2 million people. It fought to break free, engines roaring, but the void consumed it within seconds. Panic spread across Mars. Military forces unleashed their most powerful weapons at Auron's fleet, but the Titan's forces were untouchable. Plasma cannons, nuclear warheads, railgun barrages. Nothing made a difference. Auron watched from the bridge of his colossal warship, his glowing eyes filled with cold amusement. "This is the fate of those who resist." His voice echoed across all communication channels. "You are but dust before the power of the Titans." The ground beneath Mars cities cracked. Buildings collapsed as the Event Horizon Storm grew stronger. The void spread like wildfire, consuming entire regions in minutes. Billions of humans screamed as they were pulled into the abyss. Their voices faded, their existence erased as if they had never been. High above Mars, aboard the battleship Eclipse One, Supreme Commander Adrian Vale watched in horror. His hands trembled as he gripped the control panel. "We have to retreat," General Renko said beside him. "There's nothing left to fight for." Adrian clenched his jaw. He had fought in wars before. He had seen planets burn. But never had he witnessed an entire world vanish into nothingness. "Order the remaining fleet to Titan's Forge," he finally said. "We will make our stand there." Titan's Forge was humanity's last secret, a hidden military base near Saturn. Built deep within the moon's icy crust, it was their final hope. It held the blueprints for the Singularity Spear, the only weapon capable of piercing a Titan's defenses. But it wasn't ready yet. They needed time. As the surviving fleet turned toward Saturn, Orions' warships did not pursue. The Titan of the Void had no interest in chasing those who had already lost everything. He stood on the bridge of his ship, gazing at the empty space where Mars once existed. His work was done. The journey to Titan's Forge was filled with silence. Soldiers, engineers, and civilians packed the remaining ships. No one spoke. The weight of their loss was too great. The red planet, their home, was gone forever. Inside the command center of Eclipse One, Adrian stared at the holographic display. Reports poured in. Only 12% of the Martian population had escaped. Less than 1 billion souls remained. Humanity had suffered its greatest defeat. A chime interrupted his thoughts. A transmission from Titan's Forge. "Commander Vale, this is Director Sullivan. We have analyzed the data. The Singularity Spear will take at least 3 weeks to complete." "We don't have 3 weeks," Adrian said. "Orion won't stop, and he's not alone." The director's expression darkened. "We received an intercepted message from the Titans. 3 more are on their way." Adrian exhaled sharply. The Titans had given them no mercy. They had turned Mars into a graveyard without hesitation. Now, they were sending more. The war wasn't over, it was just beginning. On a distant battlefield, Orion gazed into the void where Mars had once been. His mission was complete, but something stirred deep within him. A whisper, a thought. Humanity had survived. For now, the Titan-born rebellion. The battlefield lay in ruins. Smoke curled into the sky, and shattered steel littered the ground. Humanity had won a battle. But against the Titans, victories were always temporary. Captain Elias Voss stood at the edge of the crater where the Titan had fallen. His squad surrounded the massive corpse, their weapons still hot. Then, a movement, a faint glow pulsed within the wreckage. "Sir, something's alive in there," Lieutenant Mara said, her voice tight with fear. Elias signaled his team to hold their fire. From the rubble, a figure emerged. It was not like the other Titans. Its armor shimmered with a strange, shifting light. Unlike the other towering warlords, this one had a human-like face, with piercing silver eyes. "Do not be afraid," the Titan said, her voice calm yet powerful. "I am Valara the Infinite, and I have come to warn you." The soldiers remained frozen, fingers on their triggers. No Titan had ever spoken to them like this before. Valara continued, stepping closer. "Not all Titans are your enemies. I have broken free from the Dominion's control, and I bring you a secret they fear you will learn." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Why should we trust you?" Valara exhaled, and with a wave of her hand, her form flickered. For a brief moment, she looked human, a woman in her 30s with deep scars across her face. Then, she shifted back into her Titan form. "We were once like you," she said. "All Titans were once mortal beings. We ascended beyond flesh, beyond limits. The Dominion tells us we are gods, but that is a lie. We are merely the first ones to cross the threshold." The revelation struck like lightning. The Titans were not ancient beings of cosmic power. They were evolved humans. If they had ascended, then so could humanity. "This is why they fear you," Valara continued. "Your kind has the potential to follow the same path, and I will help you do it." Elias felt the weight of her words. He turned to Mara, then to the rest of his team. "If what you say is true, then we need proof." Valara extended her hand. "Come with me. There is much to learn." In a hidden underground base, deep beneath the ruins of an old city, scientists and soldiers gathered around a glowing chamber. Valara had delivered on her promise. The technology of the Titans lay before them, waiting to be understood. Dr. Rowan, the lead scientist, stared at the data on his screen. "It's incredible," he murmured. "Their transformation isn't magic or divine power. It's an evolution of mind and body." Valara nodded. The process is called ascendancy. It requires more than just physical strength. It demands the will to break free from human limitations. Elias crossed his arms. And how do we begin? Dr. Rowan turned to him. We create Neo-Titans. Project Ascendancy was born. The first volunteers stepped into the transformation chambers. They were the best of the best, elite soldiers willing to sacrifice everything for humanity's survival. The chamber doors locked, and the process began. Pain, agony beyond imagination. Their bodies burned as the energy of ascendancy flowed through them. Flesh hardened into living metal, nerves rewired into lightning-fast conduits of power. But it was not perfect. Screams echoed through the base. One by one, bodies collapsed, unable to withstand the transformation. Bones shattered, minds melted under the pressure. Out of 1,000, only a handful emerged, reborn as something new. Elias stood before the survivors. Their eyes glowed with the same silver fire as Valera's. They had become something greater, but at a terrible cost. Only the strongest survive, Valera said, watching them. But those who do will change the fate of this war. Elias clenched his fists. The Titans were no longer gods beyond reach. Humanity had found its answer. The rebellion had begun. The siege of the celestial throne. Commander Orion Graves stood at the edge of the rift, his heart pounding as the swirling vortex pulsed with an eerie otherworldly glow. Behind him, his elite squad of warriors checked their weapons one last time. This mission was unlike any other. They were about to step into a place that should not exist. On my mark, Orion said, gripping his rifle tight. Move fast. Stay sharp. We're walking into the unknown. The team nodded, their faces set in grim determination. Then, with a deep breath, they stepped through the rift. The world on the other side was a nightmare. A floating fortress, black as the void, loomed above them. It was massive, larger than any structure humanity had ever seen. It hovered in an endless abyss, beyond the reach of time and space. Inside, the air was thick with a strange hum, like the whispers of 1,000 unseen voices. The walls pulsed with shifting light, as if they were alive, watching them. The squad moved cautiously, their boots silent against the smooth obsidian floor. This place, it's wrong, whispered Sergeant Vega, scanning the corridor with his visor. It shouldn't exist. Stay focused, Orion replied. We take out the Eternals, cut off the Titans' power. We end the war. They pressed forward, passing through enormous halls lined with towering statues. But these weren't statues. They were frozen figures, beings from different galaxies, trapped in eternal agony. Their eyes, still alive, pleaded for salvation. What is this? Private Lane murmured, stepping back in horror. A prison? Vega guessed. Or a warning. Then the fortress trembled. A voice, ancient and unshakable, echoed through the chamber. You are not welcome. A figure materialized ahead, draped in shifting cosmic energy. It had no clear form, its shape ever-changing, a blur of existence. This was an eternal. You seek to challenge gods, it asked, its voice like the rumble of a collapsing star. Orion raised his weapon. We came to end you. The eternal laughed, a sound that made the walls tremble. You do not understand. You never did. The walls peeled away, revealing the truth. Beyond the fortress, the universe twisted and coiled. Entire galaxies, shimmering with light, were being pulled into the throne. Not created, consumed. No, Orion whispered, his stomach twisting. The Titans, they don't build worlds, they devour them. Yes, the Eternal said, we are not gods of creation. We are gods of hunger, and your kind is next. Before Orion could react, the floor beneath them cracked. The fortress was collapsing. The moment they had arrived, the structure had begun unraveling. We have to go, Vega shouted. The squad turned to run, but the fortress was shifting. Walls became corridors. Corridors became void. The reality of the realm itself was breaking apart. One of the soldiers screamed as a black tendril wrapped around his leg and dragged him into the abyss. His cry was cut short. Keep moving, Orion barked. We don't have time to fight. The Eternals were no longer attacking. They were watching, amused. As if this was all inevitable, "You cannot escape what is coming," the Eternal whispered. Orion ignored it and led his team through the crumbling corridors. The exit rift was still open, barely, but the fortress was fighting to keep them in. "Move," Orion roared, shoving Vega forward. One by one, the squad leaped through the portal. The walls of the fortress screamed, the abyss reaching for them. Orion was the last. He turned, locking eyes with the Eternal one last time. "This isn't over," he said. "No," the Eternal replied, smiling. "It has only begun." Orion dove through the rift just as the fortress collapsed into nothing. They crashed back into reality, gasping for air. The mission was a failure. The Titans were not gods. They were monsters. And now, they knew humanity existed. The war was no longer about survival. It was about stopping the end of everything. The first Titan falls. The battle for Neptune had begun. The sky was torn apart, swirling with storms of cosmic fire. Neptune's surface cracked and groaned, its atmosphere peeling away in violent bursts. In the center of it all stood Kalar the World Breaker, a Titan of pure destruction. His colossal form towered over the battlefield, his silver eyes burning with ancient power. With a single step, he sent shockwaves rippling through the dying planet. The human fleet hovered in the upper atmosphere, their ships struggling against the collapsing gravity. Below, on the fractured ground, the last hope of humanity prepared to strike. Among them was Ilara Voss, a former scientist, now a soldier. In her hands, she held the only weapon that could kill a Titan. The Singularity Spear. It was a weapon of impossible design. Forged from the power of a collapsing star, its tip glowing with energy capable of tearing apart reality itself. Kalar raised his enormous fist and struck the ground. A tidal wave of molten rock erupted, swallowing dozens of soldiers. Their screams were lost in the chaos. The Titan's voice boomed like the end of time itself. "You are in no thing." But humanity did not stop. They attacked with everything they had: plasma cannons, energy bombs, nuclear lances. The sky turned red with fire. Kalar barely flinched. He swung his arm, and a dozen ships shattered into dust. He roared, and the very air trembled. His power was absolute. Ilara knew they had only one chance. She sprinted forward, dodging debris and energy blasts. The ground beneath her feet crumbled, but she kept going. Her heart pounded as she neared the Titan's massive leg. With a final leap, she latched onto his armor and began to climb. Kalar sensed her. He twisted his body, trying to shake her off. His movements were fast, too fast for something so massive. Ilara held on with everything she had. Her fingers balled as she climbed higher and higher, reaching his chest, where his heart pulsed with cosmic energy. The Singularity Spear vibrated in her hand. It was time. Kalar raised his hand to crush her, but Ilara was faster. With a scream of fury, she drove the spear into his heart. The moment it pierced his flesh, reality itself screamed. A wave of energy exploded outward. The Titan's eyes widened in shock. He had never known pain. Kalar staggered, his massive body convulsed, his silver blood spilling like liquid light. He tried to pull the spear out, but it was too late. The weapon activated. A black hole was born inside him. Kalar roared, his voice filled with something no Titan had ever felt before: fear. His body twisted and collapsed inward, sucked into the singularity forming at his core. The sky shattered. The gravity of Neptune spiraled into chaos. The planet trembled in its death throes. The human fleet scrambled to escape. Ships activated warp drives. Soldiers screamed into their comms. Neptune's core cracked, and then, in an instant, it was gone. The entire planet was consumed, swallowed by the singularity. Where Neptune once stood, there was now only emptiness, a silent wound in the fabric of space. The battlefield was no more. Ilara drifted in the void, her armor's emergency thrusters barely keeping her alive. Around her, the remains of the human fleet floated in stunned silence. Kalar was dead. A Titan had fallen. For the first time in history, the impossible had happened. The Titans could die. Across the universe, the remaining Titans felt the disturbance. Their eternal minds shuddered with something they had never known: doubt, fear. The war had changed forever. The wrath of the Pantheon. The sky cracked open like glass, revealing the void beyond. The celestial core descended, their forms shifting between light and shadow, their voices like a storm of whispers and screams. These were not just warriors, they were world-enders, creatures forged in the core of dying stars, given life by the fury of the Titans. From the depths of space, Titan-forged abominations rained upon Earth, colossal beings of metal and flesh, their bodies pulsed with unholy energy. Cities crumbled beneath their weight, their monstrous limbs smashed skyscrapers like twigs. Entire nations burned in their wake. Humanity's most advanced weapons, missiles, plasma cannons, orbital strikes, were useless against these horrors. The last great war had begun, the fall of Earth's defenses. Military forces fought with everything they had. Fighter jets weaved through the air, launching desperate attacks, only to be swatted down like insects. Super tanks fired high-energy shells, but the Titan-forged creatures shrugged them off. Orbital defense stations unleashed laser storms, but their beams faded before reaching the colossal beings. Cities turned into graveyards. Billions of people screamed in terror as the abominations marched forward. The United World Alliance, Earth's final defense force, sent its greatest warriors, cybernetic soldiers, genetically enhanced super soldiers, and battle-hardened veterans stood their ground. They fought bravely, but it was not enough. The Titans were too powerful. The awakening of the Neo-Titans. In humanity's darkest hour, something changed. A ripple spread across the planet, unseen but felt by those who carried the spark of something greater. The ground trembled, the air crackled with unseen energy, and then light erupted. From the ruins of shattered cities, they rose. The first Neo-Titans. Humans, but no longer just human. Their bodies glowed with cosmic energy, their eyes burning like miniature suns. Some floated above the ground, energy radiating from their hands. Others grew to impossible sizes, their skin turning to steel, their veins pulsing with raw power. They did not choose this transformation. It was forced upon them by the universe itself. Humanity had reached the edge of extinction, and evolution had answered. The battle of gods and titans. A Neo-Titan stepped forward, his fists crackling with energy. He raised his hand, and the sky itself bent to his will. A bolt of cosmic fire tore through the heavens, striking a celestial core warrior, reducing it to ashes. Another Neo-Titan clenched her fists, and the earth obeyed. Mountains rose beneath her feet, shattering the Titan-forged creatures. The war had changed. The Titans, once unstoppable, now faced beings who matched their strength. The celestial core, once invincible, now fell in battle. The Neo-Titans moved like living storms, their bodies shifting between light and matter, their strikes shaking the very foundations of reality. The greatest battle in history had begun, the wrath of the Pantheon. The Titans, now truly enraged, unleashed their final weapons. Massive beings, larger than mountains, emerged from the depths of space. Their eyes glowed with cosmic fire. Their voices roared with the sound of collapsing stars. These were the Elder Titans, the first of their kind, beings who had existed since before the universe took its first breath. One of them raised a hand, and a city disappeared in an instant, wiped from existence as if it had never been. Another stepped forward, and time itself fractured, twisting reality into chaos. The Neo-Titans stood their ground. They were young, untested, but they had something the Titans did not. Hope. One Neo-Titan, glowing brighter than the rest, stepped forward. He looked at the Elder Titan towering above him. Then, with a single step, he vanished, only to reappear above the monster's head. With a roar, he struck downward, his fist carrying the force of an exploding sun. The Elder Titan staggered. For the first time in untold millennia, a Titan felt pain. The war was not over. It had only just begun. The breaking of the heavens. The void trembled as humanity launched its final assault on the Titan pantheon. Ships, larger than cities, moved like silent shadows through the abyss. They carried weapons forged from dying stars, collapsing them into black holes that could consume even the mightiest of beings. At the front of the attack, Valera stood at the helm of the Leviathan-class warship Judgment. Her silver armor gleamed under the artificial light, and her eyes burned with a fury that shook the heavens. She had once been one of them, a Titan. Now, she led humanity's charge against her former brethren. The Titans loomed in the distance, their forms towering like celestial gods. Their bodies shimmered with cosmic energy, each one a force of destruction beyond mortal understanding. But for the first time, there was something new in their eyes. Fear. The battle erupted like the birth of a new star. Humanity's weapons tore through the heavens, black holes forming and vanishing in an instant. The Titans fought back, summoning storms of plasma, bending time, and striking with power that could shatter entire worlds. Valara roared as she launched herself into battle, meeting 3 Titans at once. Time twisted around her as they attacked, their blows warping reality itself. But she was faster, deadlier. Her blade, infused with neutron star matter, cut through one Titan's chest, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The second Titan, Orpheon the Unyielding, raised his hand, and time froze. For a moment, Valara saw everything in stillness, ships frozen mid-explosion, warriors trapped in a final cry of battle. But she had trained for this. Summoning all her strength, she shattered the illusion and drove her blade into Orpheon's throat. Time resumed, and his body fell, collapsing into nothingness. The third Titan, Sci-Fi the Endbringer, unleashed a wave of pure destruction. The force ripped through space, consuming ships and soldiers alike. Valara braced herself, raising a shield of energy. But just as the attack reached her, a beam of light tore through Sci-Fi's chest. "Keep fighting," roared Admiral Raiden from the flagship Eclipse. "The Titans are breaking." Across the battlefield, humanity pressed forward. Titans fell one by one, their once immortal forms crumbling before the might of the human will. For the first time in countless eons, the gods of old were being overthrown. Then, a voice echoed through the void, a voice that made even the Titans tremble. "You were never gods." The remaining Titans froze. Even Valara, caught in the heat of battle, hesitated. The voice was ancient, deeper than time itself. The very fabric of reality shuddered as something awoke. The sky cracked open, revealing an abyss beyond the known universe, and from that abyss they emerged. The true gods. They were vast, incomprehensible, their forms shifting between dimensions. The Titans, once thought to be the highest beings, now looked like mere insects before these cosmic entities. The Eternals, those who had whispered their commands to the Titans for eons, had been lying. The Titans were never the gods. They were only pawns. And now, the real gods had awakened. A great silence fell over the battlefield. Even the black holes humanity had created seemed to shrink in the presence of these beings. The Titans, once so proud, now trembled. Valara clenched her fists. Humanity had fought so hard, had risked everything. But now, they faced something far beyond their understanding. The battle for the heavens was over. A new war was about to begin. The eternal awakening. The universe trembled. Orion Graves stood at the edge of the cosmos, his gaze fixed on the abyss before him. Valara stood beside him, her expression grim. Before them stretched an endless void, a darkness so deep it swallowed light itself. But it was not empty. Something stirred within, a force beyond comprehension, older than the stars. The Titans had always been the ultimate power, shaping galaxies, waging wars, and bending reality itself. But now, even they felt fear. A force beyond their control had awakened. The primordials. They were not gods. They were not bound by time, space, or even logic. They were the first, the ones that existed before existence itself. And to them, everything that came after, Titans, humans, all living beings, were nothing more than parasites feeding on their universe. A deep vibration rippled through reality, shaking entire star systems. Orion clenched his fists, feeling the immense pressure of the moment. Valara whispered, "They are waking." In the vastness of space, Titan fleets hovered like insects, their massive warships gleaming with power. The Titans, once arrogant and unstoppable, now hesitated. Their minds, capable of shattering planets, could not comprehend the presence they now faced. "They do not think as we do," Orion said, his voice low. "They do not feel as we do." A massive rupture formed in space, as if the fabric of reality itself was splitting apart. From within, a shape began to emerge. It had no true form, shifting constantly. Black tendrils, glowing eyes, an ever-changing mass of energy and darkness. It was everything and nothing at once. Then, a voice echoed across the cosmos. "You are not welcome." The words were not spoken, but they existed. They burned into every mind, forcing all beings, Titan and human alike, to their knees. The Titans screamed, their bodies writhing. Even the strongest among them collapsed, overwhelmed by the sheer presence of the primordials. Orion remained standing, his breathing heavy. He felt his mind slipping, his thoughts scattering. Valara grabbed his arm, grounding him. "Stay with me," she said. Another rupture opened. More primordials emerged, vast, formless, existing outside of reality. Their mere presence caused entire galaxies to flicker like dying candles. Stars exploded. Planets crumbled into dust. The laws of physics shattered wherever they moved. A Titan warlord, desperate and afraid, launched an attack. A beam of pure cosmic energy, powerful enough to erase a solar system, shot forward. It never reached its target. The energy simply ceased to exist, swallowed by the void of the primordial's being. The warlord screamed as his body unraveled, breaking apart into nothingness. The other Titans recoiled in horror. For the first time in their eternal existence, they faced something they could not fight. Orion turned to Valara. "We need to leave." She shook her head. "There is nowhere to go." A massive shockwave erupted as the primordials moved forward. The very concept of time twisted. The past, present, and future blurred together. Orion saw glimpses of different realities, Earths that never existed, battles that were yet to come, and a version of himself that had never been born. The primordial spoke again. "You do not belong." A Titan general, his golden armor cracked, fell to his knees. "We are the rulers of this universe. We are its masters." The primordials did not respond. Instead, the Titan began to fade. His form lost its definition, his body dissolving into the nothingness from which he came. One by one, the Titans started to disappear, erased from existence without resistance. Orion's heart pounded. He clenched his fists. "We have to do something." Valara looked at him, her eyes filled with something strange. Determination. "There is one way." Before Orion could ask, she took a step forward. The darkness of the primordials reached out, wrapping around her like tendrils of smoke. But she did not resist. Instead, she spoke in a language that should not exist, a sound that sent ripples through the void. Orion watched in shock. The primordials hesitated. Valara turned to him. "We were created after them, but we are not separate from them. They are the source of all. If we can make them see that we are part of the same existence, maybe they will not erase us." The primordials observed her. Orion felt the universe hold its breath. Then, for the first time, something changed. The darkness shifted. The formless shapes stilled. The overwhelming pressure lessened, if only slightly. A single thought entered Orion's mind. "Show us." The final war had begun. The universe trembled. The primordials, ancient beings older than time itself, tore through the fabric of reality. Space cracked like fragile glass, and entire galaxies were swallowed by the void. Their wrath was beyond mortal comprehension. They were not just destroying the cosmos, they were unmaking existence itself. But humanity did not stand alone. The last of the Titans, once gods of unimaginable power, had chosen to fight alongside their former enemies. The Great War had changed everything. Now, mortals and deities stood shoulder to shoulder, their differences forgotten in the face of annihilation. Orion, humanity's greatest warrior and the chosen champion of Earth, stood at the heart of the battlefield. His armor was shattered, his body bruised, but his spirit burned brighter than the dying stars above. In his hands, he held the Infinity Rift, a weapon of forbidden power, one that could reshape existence itself. He had only one chance. The battlefield stretched endlessly before him. Titans and humans fought side by side, their weapons glowing with celestial fire. The primordials, monstrous and incomprehensible, towered over them, their very presence warping reality. Entire armies were erased with a mere thought, but humanity did not falter. They had come too far. Surrender was not an option. Orion turned to Etheria, the last Titan queen. Her once golden form was dim, her power fading. "This is the only way," he said, gripping the infinity rift tightly. "If we don't act now, everything will be lost." Etheria hesitated. "The rift is too powerful. It was never meant to be used by mortals." "I am no longer just a mortal," Orion replied. "I am humanity's last hope." The primordials let out a deafening roar, their forms shifting between dimensions. The sky cracked open, revealing an endless abyss of nothingness. The end was near. Orion stepped forward, raising the infinity rift. Energy surged through his body, burning his soul. His mind screamed in agony, but he held on. He could feel the raw fabric of reality bending in his grasp. With one final breath, he made his choice. The weapon activated. A blinding explosion of energy erupted from the rift, consuming everything in its path. Time twisted, space shattered. The laws of the universe were rewritten in an instant. The primordials screamed as their power was stripped away. Their forms unraveled, their existence erased by the very force they sought to control. The Titans, too, felt their essence fading. They had ruled the cosmos for eons, but their time was over. As the light engulfed him, Orion knew he would not survive this. He had given everything, but he smiled, for he had won. The war was over. When the light faded, the universe was reborn. The primordials were gone. The Titans had vanished. Only humanity remained. Etheria's voice echoed in the void, a whisper of a past era. "You have done what no god or titan ever could. You have rewritten fate itself. The cosmos belongs to you now." Orion's body was gone, but his legacy lived on. Humanity had ascended. They were no longer mere mortals. They were now the rulers of the stars. But as the galaxies settled into their new order, something stirred beyond the veil of time. A shadow, a whisper. "This war is only the beginning."